Before making this video, I realized that I actually didn't know a lot about goals. So what I did is I researched an entire afternoon and I spent it just watching videos on goal setting, asking myself some questions about goals and trying to answer them. And it was pretty eye-opening. But the more I dug deeper and the more videos I watched, the more information I got and the more questions I was trying to answer, I realized that more information isn't necessarily good. In fact, when I spent some time to think about it, I realized that all this smart goal setting that you probably heard about, and also reverse goal setting, that all of this is pretty unnecessary. So, what I'm going to share with you right now is the only thing you need to know about goals. So, we're going to go through this process of setting goals together right now. I have a pen here and a paper here. We're going to do that right now. Before we start, I want to say that I know that all these other goal setting videos and these other techniques, that they are not bad, and in fact they can actually be pretty good, but, and this is a very important but, they are just way too much information, way too complicated. So what happens is, instead of, making setting goals desirable, what these complicated strategies do is they just make the entire process unbearable and undesirable. So if you want to watch some smart goal setting videos after this one, go ahead. But I wouldn't do it because it's just unnecessary. So let's just start. The starting thing that you want to do if you're setting goals, which is also the easiest one, is to just figure out what you want to do. And that's actually as simple as it is. Just write down your goals and forget about the smart goals thing. Everything can be a goal. It does not need to be specific, measurable, or anything. Just something that you want to achieve or happen. And this can even be something as vague as wanting to live a more peaceful life. So what we're going to do right now is write down at least 5 goals that we have. And you don't need to pause it, the video, because we're going to do it together. I'm going to do that with you right now. And if you want this video to really change and help you, then don't just watch here and say you're going to do it later, because we both know you're not. Just grab a pen and a piece of paper right now. It's very simple, you don't need more. You just need to write down some things, and if you do that, I really believe that you can achieve all of your goals. Okay, so I have 2 right now. I'm trying to think of the third one. By the way, you can take your time. You don't need to write it down in an instant. It can take some time to think of 5 or 6, or you can even write 10 goals down. It doesn't matter. You take some time to think of that. Okay, I wrote down my 7 goals. I have them right here. So what we're gonna do right now is we have 5 or maybe even 3 or 10 goals, however much you wrote. So in a video that I saw of Hamza, what he did is he told people to circle the 3 most important goals that you really want to achieve and to cross the other ones out and just to forget about them. And I want to take that a step further, and because I think that 3 goals is still too much. And I'm not just saying that, I'm saying that because I had many goals or multiple goals, and I realized that having more than one goal is just gonna hinder progress in every fucking way. And that's because it's just really hard to focus on many different things at the same time, even as many as, or even as few as 2 things. So what I want you to do, and I think this is the easiest way that you can figure out which is the most important to you, just imagine that one of these goals that you just wrote down, imagine that one of these goals, you know, became reality, came true for your life. For me, for example, for me, I imagine myself dunking a basketball. That's one of the goals that I wrote down. What of these goals that you wrote down would be like, wow, mind blowing to achieve for you? What is like the most life changing goal if you achieve that? And that is the goal that you want to circle, and the other ones you have to just cross out. Um, and I wish I could tell you that you can achieve all of these goals at the same time, and maybe you do. I don't know. We have to find out, but I'm very sure that the less goals you have, the easier it is to progress in them. Just imagine two different guys, and both of them are trying to become YouTubers, and one guy has only one goal of becoming a YouTuber, and so all he does is focus his entire time on YouTube. And the other guy also wants to lift weights, he likes to play football, and he wants to learn music, he wants to be a rapper. Um, the answer is pretty simple to the question who's gonna achieve it more likely. Um, of course, that is only a hypothetical, but you're getting my point. The less goals you have, the better. And I'm telling you about this so long because I think it's very important. And I want you to realize that you just need one goal. It's just it makes everything easier if you just have one goal. Really. So this one goal that is the most life-changing one for you, that would be the most incredible if you achieved it. You're gonna circle that, and the other ones, you're just gonna aggressively draw over them and cross them out. And that doesn't mean that you will never achieve them, not at all, but it means that right now, in this moment, and in the future, in the near future, which could be months, maybe years, that is the one thing that you're going to focus on the most. And the other goals that I wrote down, I'm not going to completely forget about them. For example, I have goals of for example, I have goals here written down, like get it to 70 kg lean, so my body weight. And I'm not gonna stop working out, but I'm gonna always focus on the one goal that I circled the most, so there's always the first priority. And I can do the other ones after I did that, but that is always gonna be number one. So I'm gonna work out, I don't know, maybe a bit less than if working out was my number one priority. But that's just, I guess you just have to make sacrifices if you really want something. You can't have it all, especially if you want something fast. So a lot of the videos I watched on goal setting actually didn't really answer lots of questions that I had. And one of the questions were, what is a good timeline, to set a goal? For example, should I set a goal for a month or a year? What is a realistic timeline? Is probably a better way. So what is a realistic goal? And that's, a very hard to answer when your goal is something that you never tried yet. For example, if you're a fat guy and you want to lose 50 pounds, but you never really, you've never really been on a weight loss journey, then how are you supposed to know how long it's going to take you? So what can you put as a realistic goal? And I found the answer, but it's maybe not what you expect. The goal needs to feel below you because it's so easy to achieve. You need to be completely sure that you can achieve it. It needs to be like a no-brainer. Because what happens a lot, and I saw that with myself as well, is that if we put our goals too high, especially with deadlines, of course, if you say, you want to dunk a basketball, but you don't know, you're not going to set a deadline, then you're not going to be as disappointed after 1 month. But if you set a deadline and you don't achieve it, you're going to feel bad. So it's going to demoralize you. At least that happened for me. It demoralized me pretty much, and it made me give up. And the best way you can stop that from happening is to just make the goal so easy that you really can't not achieve it. So that only answered the question of what a realistic goal is. So we still have the question of what is a good timeline to set a goal. So when should I set my deadline? And I found that it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. But the best way, especially for long-term goals, is to have a 1 year goal and then to set goals for every month. And you're not going to look at the 1 year and then trace it back to, the month. What you're going to do is you're going to put the 1 year goal, and then you're going to have the monthly goal. And you're not going to just write down January, that's my goal, February, that's my goal. You're just going to start with January. That's the only goal you have for now. And then I'm going to explain it with an example because that's just the easiest way. So for me, my goal is to grow my YouTube channel. So what is a realistic goal for me for 1 month in subscriber growth? What is something that I can easily achieve that is almost below me? And that is 10 subscribers. That sounds pretty horrible because it is. But like I said, we need realistic goals. We need goals that feel below us. So that's what I'm going to put. And then when January is over and I hopefully achieved my goal, I can see the progress that I made, and I can then, set a better goal for the next month. That's probably going to fit a bit better, set the bar a bit higher, specifically for goals that have compounding effects, like growing a following somewhere. But if your goal was to lose weight and you lost like 2 pounds, and you know that you could have lost 10 pounds, then maybe just put it to 3 pounds. Or if you lost 5 pounds and you know that you gave it everything, you almost couldn't have done it more perfectly, then don't go higher, of course, because then you're not going to achieve the goal. So always have a goal that you will achieve, and it can be low, but that's fine, because setting a goal too low isn't an issue, because if you go past it, you're only going to feel bad. It's not going to give you any negative effects. So that's the timeline that I think is the best. Have a 1 year bigger goal, and then set a goal for each month throughout the year. And it doesn't matter when you start. You can start in the middle of August. That's irrelevant. In a video I saw, I think it was Ali Abdar, he said that, he looked at a study, and people who wrote down their goals were 42% more likely to achieve them. So if you haven't written them down yet, then that's going to make it a bit easier to do. That's going to give you the motivation you need. So just writing them down will make it 42% more likely, that you're going to achieve them. And I think that is pretty crazy. And on top of that, you need to look at them every week, which makes a lot of sense, to constantly remind us of what we want, to stay on our path. But the question I asked myself when I heard that was, how can we remind ourselves? What is the best way? Because I get pretty annoyed when things get too complicated unnecessarily. For example, when you have too many Notion pages that you don't really need, and it just gets overwhelming. And the more you have, the less you actually do. I think, too much information is very overwhelming, and too much, goal setting stuff is just gonna be bad. So I asked myself this question. That you might also have. That is, if looking at your goals and writing them down is so good, where do I put them? Some of you might not want to journal or do that stuff. I don't want to journal, at least for now as well, because it's just too much. And, if I haven't even have the basics done right, then there's no point in doing all these other cool little self-improvement habits. So I figured the best way you can remind yourself is just writing it down and hanging it, or, putting it somewhere that you look at often. So I first of all thought that putting it as a screensaver is a nice way. But then I realized I don't really look at my screensaver. Like if I change it, I'm gonna look at it for, I guess, the the first few days. I'm gonna notice something's different. I'm gonna look at it, but after that, I'm not even gonna notice anything that's there. So that's not the best way. So I figured the best way is to just uh you know use small papers and just write down your goal and kind of spread it in your home and put it somewhere that you don't look at often. For example, the fridge with the healthy food or your closet with the running shoes. No, but seriously, something like it could be somewhere like your bathroom, in your hanging closet where you have your toothbrush. You know, just take one of these little papers, write down, lose 50 pounds. Or if you're really ambitious, what you can also do, I'm too lazy for that, I'm going to be honest, is print out pictures. I always think pictures are more motivating than just writing down words. So you can just use pictures, but the easiest way is to just write it down and hang it somewhere that you look at regularly, but not too often. Because if you look at it too often, then it's going to be so normal in your life that you're just going to forget to notice it altogether. So I hope that answers the question that you might have had. And I know that many of you watching probably have, really high goals that seem very unrealistic for you. And you probably often think that you can't achieve them because it would just be too cool to be true. And I'm guessing that because for me it's the same way. I want to grow a huge YouTube channel, and that just seems super surreal for me because it would be incredible. But one way you can one way you can motivate yourself to realize that you can actually achieve your goal is, and I thought of that, and it makes a lot of sense. For me, what helped me is looking at other YouTubers who I knew were not as intelligent as me, or their YouTube videos. I looked at them and I realized like I can do that better, and they had like a pretty big following. If they can do that, then I can do it too. And the same goes for example, one of my goals was, if you remember, one of my goals was to dunk a basketball. And that is a pretty surreal goal for me because you're not seeing it because you don't have any comparison, but I'm pretty short. I'm 5'8" and I'm white. If I would be black, it would be, I guess, somewhat easier to jump high because I had more fast twitch muscle fibers. But my point is that it's hard. But I realized, I looked online and I saw Asians smaller than me who could jump so high they could dunk. So if this guy out there on my computer screen is smaller than me and maybe even has worse genetics, if he can do it, then I can do it too. You know the saying, there's always an Asian better than you. And in the same way, there's always someone that achieved what you are currently trying to achieve. So if someone did it, then you can do it too. That's my point. And if it bothers you that you have to select one goal and have to basically forget about the rest, don't worry, because I basically had the same, problem. I had the same problem in my mind. So my answer to that, or what I thought of, is that you can kind of connect the goals. And for me, that would mean one of my goals is to dunk a basketball. Like I already said many times right now, you probably realized that I love basketball pretty much. But one of my goals was that. So how can I link that to YouTube? You have to find a connection, and for YouTube, for my case, it's pretty easy. What I can do is I can make a series where, I'm trying to increase my vertical jump height. So that would give me a reason to do it. That would also make it important for my main goal. And you need to find that connection, but don't do it too much. Always prioritize your number one goal and always do that first. And the best way you can do that if you're not in school or not working, which many of you probably unfortunately don't have the time. But if you're on a gap year or something like me, then the best way to achieve your goal is to just do whatever you need to do for that goal. So, as you all know, when you have a goal, there's like one main task that you need to do a lot to achieve that goal. You know, for dunking a basketball is working out, you know, jumping, just doing jumping training. For sleeping better, is regularly going to bed at a good time, you know, early enough. For, I guess, you know, increasing your bench press, you just need to bench press. That's like, you always have this one task that is like the determining factor to, you know, achieving your goal. And you need to always do that as early as possible, um, to kind of get it out of the way. And because if you just do something else beforehand, chances are you're just gonna say you're gonna do it tomorrow, and we both know that you're not. So always do that first if you can. I know that if you're working, especially if you're working like 10 hours a day, it's very hard, because I did that too for like a month. Worked on a construction site, and it was pretty shitty. Like, you basically have no free time, and you still have to kind of find a way. And that's what I mean by you have to sacrifice something. Especially if you don't have much time, you need to just forget about the rest, because you cannot do it all. If you come home every day at 5 p.m. and you're tired, then you obviously don't have time to achieve all kinds of different goals. You don't have time to work out, record, I don't know, cook, um, you know, do basketball training. You can't do it all, so you have to focus on one thing and really focus on that. So you have to sacrifice. That's just the way life is, unfortunately, but it also makes it interesting, I think. So yeah. Um, but I want to say something really important before we go, or I want to rather show you something, and that is my dirty ass setup and my dirty room. And I'm gonna show you that because the next video I'm gonna do is me cleaning up my room, and you're not gonna just watch me clean up my room, but I want to show you and tell you why it is so important to, you know, keep everything around you clean, and especially not clean but tidied up, not have too much stuff just laying around, because it's very hard to focus on something and actually do the work that you need to do. For example, for me, it's very hard to constantly think about recording and actually, you know, just recording more videos. It gets very hard for me if my entire room is a mess, because I can't think properly. So, yep, in the next video you're gonna see that, and I'm gonna tell you the best and easiest way you can do it, because chances are, if you're anything like me, you don't like cleaning your room. You are pretty lazy. So if you want to still find an easy way to, you know, clean out your room, and a nice, I guess you can call it, system to do it, because it really is important, then watch the next video. And with that said, I hope that you learned. But okay, before we stop, I forget that we need to write down our goals. So I'm going to do that to finish the video. Write down your goal. 50k subs. Wait. Okay, I thought it was mirrored. Hang that somewhere where you see it, where you don't see it too much, but where you see it regularly. Do that. Then do the one task that you need in order to achieve that goal. Do that as much as you can, and maybe spend some time learning to how you can do that task better. And that is the only thing you need for goals. So yeah, I wish you a great day, and take care.